Have you ever had a project stalled for months? I mean, think about it. You've done it your part 100%. You are complete on your end, but you're missing a key component to get things up and rolling. And that key component is your client's content. Your client's content is your client's contribution for their launch, for their product, for their service. Whatever it is they have hired you to do, you are waiting for them to do their part. And this project will drag out for months, in certain cases, years if you let it. And it just sits there like an anchor that's dragging down your business, that's dragging down your schedule, that's possibly even impacting your availability to your other clients. You see, I recently had some conversation with some fellow entrepreneurs, and it was very surprising how many of them still have outstanding projects in the fourth quarter of this year. And they are like me. They have reached their ultimate line of communication with the client, and they are tired of waiting for these things to be complete. And so now we have all reached that point where, as a CEO, this is when you really know you're a CEO, because now you have to put your foot down against your clients and give them what I like to call the ultimate deadline. And this is something that a lot of entrepreneurs fear to have to do, because when you put down an ultimate deadline, there is a high chance you may lose that client. And honestly, CEO to CEO, it may not be a bad thing, because if they're not doing their part and it's impacting your bottom line, especially if in the fourth quarter you like to close out your books so that you can start the first quarter of the new year with a clean slate, and you have clients still stalling, then maybe the firing may not be that bad. But today I want to share with you a few lessons that I have learned. And these lessons actually protect my profits, they protect my schedule, they protect my fellow clients, and ultimately, they protect my sanity. So, without further delay, let's talk about these delays and possibly what we can do about them. Let's talk about it. When a client project stalls, we often think it's not my fault, so it's fine. But here's the truth: your time is your inventory. When a project goes from active to pending client content, it creates a massive cost. And that cost is called your opportunity cost. That space in your schedule could have been used for the next paying client. Instead, it's filled with uncertainty. In other words, you really don't know what the client is going to be doing or what they're doing, or even if they're going to complete this project in the end. You just know you're stuck holding the bag. Clients often have the best intentions, but they dramatically underestimate the time and effort it takes to gather their materials. They're juggling their dream, their family, their full time job, and your project gets pushed to the bottom of their list. Now you have to determine, is that fair to you or not? As the service provider, you have to be the one who sets the standard for movement. You have to be the CEO of your own timeline. And as the CEO of your own timeline, you can't be afraid to put your foot down and give your clients your ultimate deadline. The biggest mistake we make as CEOs, as the ones that they hired, is thinking that the client's content submission is a suggestion. It needs to be one of those non negotiable deadlines that you set with your clients. Here's why: we focus so much on the launch date, but the launch date is meaningless without an enforceable final submission deadline. See, this deadline is the deadline you set as a CEO when you need that client's content. And this is why I personally don't do any business with another individual without a contract. In your contract, you need to clearly stipulate the project timeline and divide that timeline into two phases. Phase one is when you're going to do your part. Phase two is when you expect your clients to do theirs. Meaning, if they're hiring you to do a particular project, phase one is when you tell that client in that contract, these are the things I'm going to do. This is the date I will have it done by. Phase two means your client now comes on board, and then you tell them, I need your stuff by this date here. Stick to those dates. Give them no wiggle room, because remember, clients sometimes will use other things outside the business as excuses as to why they will fail to meet your ultimate deadline. Once phase one is done, the clock starts ticking on a firm date for phase two. Don't say, send it to me when you can. Instead, say, all required content is due by whatever specific date you set in place. This treats the content like the final piece of the puzzle of which it is. If you don't have this, you have no control. And trust me, from personal experience, when you have absolutely no control, some clients will use that as a place of weakness and keep dragging this project out. Now, I know what you're thinking. You've set this ultimate deadline. But should there be a consequence if they don't meet the deadline? Well, it's up to you. I can only speak for me and for several other business owners I've spoken with within the last few months. The answer to that question, if there should be a consequence, the answer is simple. Yes, because of this. A deadline without a consequence is just a suggestion. The consequence you need that I particularly use in my business is called a continuation fee. Sometimes it could be called a re-engagement fee. This is not a penalty, so don't think that. But it is a fee to protect your future work. If the project content is not received by the firm deadline that you have set, the project officially moves to a dormant status. To pull that project off the dormant shelf and put it back into your active schedule requires a continuation fee. Why does this work? Well, it provides a monetary incentive for the client to prioritize your project. It respects your time and the opportunity cost of rescheduling. The key here is this: you need to communicate this fee in advance and explain that it's necessary to maintain fair and consistent scheduling for all clients. Turns the problem from a personal frustration into a clear business transaction. The most impactful and difficult boundary to set in anyone's business, but sometimes it is absolutely necessary, is a boundary clause. After a prolonged delay, depends on what your delay is. The longest I've had to wait for a project to be done has been 5 months. Some of you may say, oh, it's been a month past my deadline. Oh, it's been 6 months past my deadline. Whatever it is for you, you need to understand this. You need to signal to your client that this level of delay is not sustainable for your business. Remember, they hired you, and you have to make sure you have your stuff together as the CEO of your company. I've had to tell a client in the past, Due to the extended timeline and multiple delays on a particular project, that my company will not be able to issue them another contract for whatever project I happen to be working with them on at that time. I've even had to go as far as, because of this delay was so long, I had to go as far as to tell the client that I wouldn't even be able to work with them on future projects. This is how long and difficult working with them the first time around was. So, you have to understand, and you have to make your clients understand that what you're doing here is not firing them, and you're not hating on their business, or you're not trying to hurt their business in any way. This is simply about you protecting the integrity of your business model. You must maintain a precedence of professionalism and timely execution, not just for them, but for every single client that you are serving. If one project is allowed to drag on indefinitely, every future client will expect the same lax timeline. The boundary clause is tough, I know, and I absolutely hate to enforce it. But what I've learned is that it's essential. It's essential because it helps you keep things in order. And it also helps you determine and solidify your very own long term success. At some point, you have to stop these long delays and tell your clients, you hired me. If I can do my part in a timely manner, I truly expect you to be able to do the same. If you're unable to do that, then please don't reach out to another company for help until you are absolutely ready to move forward in your projects, no matter how big or small. If you're unsure about something and you're not quite ready, then put it on your later table, meaning it's not something you're going to address right now because you're just not ready for the next step. So please take these things very seriously. So I know what you're thinking, but Ten, what happens when the client decides to walk away? What happens when I have to close out their account or I have to end business with them? What happens then? I don't know if I can bear that. Trust me, I've been right there with you. So let's just talk about it. When a client walks away or concedes, you must control the exit. Don't let them drag the closing process out. The final phase of the professional closeout protocol you have to understand is this. This has to be scheduled, it has to be documented, it has to be clearly defined. Remember, you control the date. Your ultimate deadline is controlled by you. If you suggest a date, politely reply, that date is unavailable, but please use my calendar. And I hope as a CEO and a business owner, you have a calendar. Please use my calendar link to book your final closeout. This, whatever date is, you need to stick to it. You, the CEO of your company, must define your own scope. Let me explain. You have to detail what happens in the final meeting, whether there'll be documentation exchange, if there's going to be rules and guidelines that you're going to train them on. Whatever it is, you have to make sure that it's clear and you are ready to make these things change from your hand to theirs. It's basically you are doing an ownership transfer. Whatever that project is you are working on for this client that you have closed the case on, you have to do a particular close out session and document it for your own company's protection. Another thing we have to be aware of is called the final boundary. This is mostly important because it clearly states after the transfer has taken place, this is what's going to happen next. For instance, you could say something as simple as after the transfer of ownership, We are not responsible for any further training or maintenance. If typically you probably told the client when they were on within your deadline that you were going to do a particular thing. Well, now that you have decided to close this particular project out, you have to make sure they know once this goes into your hands, it is no longer in mine, or in your case, in yours. They have actually taken over full control of this project. It is not your responsibility anymore. Doing this creates a clean, legally binding contract between you and them. It prevents future scope creep and late night texting. What that means is they're not going to be able to contact you once they take ownership of this. They can't call you later and say, hey, can you show me this or can you show me that? No, ma'am, no, sir. Or you can say, sure, but my fee is, and then you tell them what your fee is to help them further once that transfer has been completed. It's all on you, CEO. Listen, I know project management is hard, but dealing with client content delays is one of the number one pain points that service providers experience. Remember, you are the CEO. Whether you're the CEO that's the client or the CEO that's the service provider, you are the CEO and you are ultimately responsible for the relationships you form with other business owners. I hope these 4 steps that I have shared today will help you. And I want you to understand how we must learn how to move from these frustrating situations caused by these delays to becoming more confident, more highly structured as business owners than we have ever been before. So if you are a fellow CEO that has experienced client delays, let me be the first to tell you, you are not alone. But what we must do to prevent these things from happening is make sure that you are not doing business with anyone and you don't have a contract in place. Because if you don't have a contract in place, your clients just may delay their very own success. And you, my friend, will also get drugged down in the mud with them. So I hope this video helped you. Do me a favor. Please like and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And I look forward to your feedback down in the comments. I'm the Educated Natural, as I always say. Be blessed. Continue to be a blessing to others. Until the next time we get together, enjoy your journey.